Sound, light, vibration, and the form blend and merge, and thus the work is one. It proceedeth under the law, and naught can hinder now the work from going forward. The man breathes deeply, he concentrates his forces, and drives the thought form from him. Okay, here we have a very important piece of work, of magic dealt with, and one that is little considered and known. The force used by the ego in the work of, I like this, forcing the man to carry out his purpose has been dynamic will. That's not how we usually think of the ego, is it? Forcing, right? So, who's forcing who here? I think, the solar angel is compulsive. Compelling. The force used by the ego in working out in the work of forcing the man to carry out his purpose has been dynamic will. And the pedal, or energy center, and notice that a pedal is an energy center. It's not just a passive receptor. The pedal or energy center employed has been one of the will pedals. A will pedal is primary, then the tear, it seems. Dynamic will from the jewel and the lotus. Okay. And the pedal or will or energy center employed has been one of the will pedals. The man has up till now, there's the other word, been driven by egoic will, but has blended with this much of the energy of the attraction aspect, desire or love, thereby gathering to himself on the mental plane the material needed for his thought form. Law of attraction is involved in gathering that. But really, the ego is the driving magician. The ego is in the driver's seat. The solar angel ego is driving and forcing the man to create.
But is he using a different, this is egoic will, the man is using, is the solar angel ego using a different kind of will? Is it spiritual?
Well, he says it's coming from one of the will pedals. That's the center he uses.
Right. Is egoic will one of the will pedals?
Well, I think it is. It's one of the sacrifice pedals. It's an energy center.
Right.
He's using that.
So it could be pedal number 2 versus pedal number...
It could be pedal number 2, pedal number 3. Yeah, it depends on how highly advanced the ego is. Now, this is going to go into the throat center, I think. How does it go? Well, we'll learn in a minute. There are several lines. We have to pronounce certain mantras that will protect ourselves, and the energy stream begins within the egoic lotus. Okay. So, I like these words, driven and forced. And it's very interesting that we are being compelled by the ego to do its will, and then we discover ourselves as the creator when really we're being, pressure is being put upon us. And I would say that this is Vulcanian pressure. Okay, he has succeeded so far that on the concrete levels of the mental plane is to be seen a form in mental matter which is coherent, alive, vibrant, and of a desired nature. And then I say he has built this by communing with the ego and meditating rhythmically, and let's just say this, and also by sounding the Om as he constructs the form while visualizing. Its internal activity is such that its persistence for the length of time necessary to ensure achievement of the egoic purpose is assured. In other words, we have reached a certain point of vitality in the thought form being created. Okay. It stands ready to be sent forth upon its mission. Still on the mental plane, in a way. To gather to itself a material of a denser nature upon the astral plane, and to achieve greater consolidation. this is brought about by an act of the will emanating from the man, and he gives the living form. It is a living form because he has nurtured it to that point, power to break loose. Breathing deeply is an act of the will. Concentrating forces is an act of the will. And driving is also an act of the will. It is exactly at this point, fortunately for the human race, that the majority of magical investigators fail in their work. I think we can all understand this. They build a form in mental matter but do not know how to send it forth, so that inevitably it will fulfill its mission. And there, once it's really sent forth properly, then the word inevitable is important. Thus, many thought forms die a natural death on the mental plane, owing to the inability of the man to exert the will faculty constructively, and his failure to understand the laws of thought form construction. I guess he builds weak forms. So let's highlight those two words, inability and failure. And of course, it's going to die within his aura, and that could cause trouble. So he didn't say within the mental body, but if he can't send it forth, then it is within his mental body. And we learn about the poisonous effect of the accumulated many forms that are not sent forth properly. Overproductivity of this kind, it can suffocate you.
So what you're implying is that thoughts, a lot of thoughts that in fact don't get consummated, don't get projected, don't get in fact established and created on the physical plane could poison you.
They're hanging around, preventing circulation.
Never have been dealt with, never heard.
They haven't been completed, they haven't been sent forth.
Right.
They vaporize the creator, right?
Exactly, that's it.
Henceforth, we should really limit our thoughts.
Well, either that or know what we're doing. In other words, we should think. We don't want a lot of clutter. This is what he calls idle thought. The idle thoughts will each produce effect. If good and kind not need be done, if otherwise the paying of the price cannot be long delayed.
If good and kind
not need be done,
okay,
if otherwise the paying of the price cannot be long delayed. Here he's talking about the quality of thought, but DK is also talking about sort of half-formed, weak, unstable thought forms, which is just like a lot of residue in your aura, right? And you cannot use the will factor constructively to send them forth. I think the word constructively is important. Another factor about preventing the thought form from fulfilling its mission is his lack of knowledge of the formula. Lack of knowledge of the formula. And that's going to be that way for a long time. Which releases the elemental builders from their surroundings and forces them to cohere within the periphery of the thought form for as long as the thinker desires. This is releasing the prisoner of the planets whose note is right and justly tuned to that which must be made.
What did you say?
Well, the web pulsates, it contracts and expands, that the magician sees the midway point and thus release those prisoners of the planet whose note is right and justly tuned to that which must be made. So this is the 12th rule, and it has to do with actually disengaging elementals that you want to be built into your thought form. So this man doesn't know how to do this. He doesn't know how to release the elemental builders from their general environment, force them into the periphery of the thought form, and keep them there so that his thought form has a
I
construction.
thought these were the ones that were kind of a myriad of forces that were kind of spouting out the light.
Well, that's on the mental plane, and the one that I just pronounced was from the etheric plane. He doesn't know how to
I got it.
do that. So there are many places along the way that things can fail. But anyway, he doesn't know how to build. That's it. He doesn't know how to build the thought form properly. Cannot build. So he doesn't have the will and cannot build. Not enough will and cannot build and no formulas for building. Cannot rightly build and no knowledge of formulas for right building. Okay. Finally, and this is the fourth point, they die owing to the incapacity of the man, which prevents him from holding a meditation long enough and formulating his ideas clearly enough to bring about ultimate materialization. So there's a certain vagueness going on here. Vague, woolly, Kama-monastic thought forms. We have to learn how to think very sharply, if possible. Now there are mudras to help you think sharply, and this is one of them. It's like picking up the grain of knowledge. That's how it's described. So when this is a fifth ray mudra, and you oftentimes find people with the fifth ray trying to be precise when they use it.
That's why sometimes you move this.
Yeah.
There are two things that when they touch the tips or the fingers, that is bringing the teaching. And then there's the arguing.
Well, and when you cock the hand, this means defending the teaching.
Yeah, and tells how the Buddha is superior over the others, like the demons, that no one can argue with him. So this is the mudra of that, and that is the bringing the teaching.
Bringing the teaching.
Yeah, when there are the tips. So it's like a round fingers. And this is when you see like that, that is that Buddha shows his superiority.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to look at the pictures of those.
Yeah, that's those two.
Right. Do you see there is the right hand is in the teaching position, and I think that the left hand is
holding something.
Holding flat. I can't see
Is it not holding? It looks like it's holding some kind of implement.
It's holding a solar plexus horizontally.
well, that is where they have on the left, the fingers on the left.
This one is doing like this, the left hand like this.
Yeah, this is there. That is more about. Here the left hand is done like that, where he says at the same time that he can argue with whatever entity.
That one is doing this.
So you go this way and the left hand's like this? Really? Like that?
Yeah.
I've never seen that. Okay.
Yeah, that is different. The versions of them.
Well, anyway, these things unite the currents of the body in such a way that it reinforces certain attitudes and flows, and actually helps, You know, if you want to make a point to someone,
that is...
This is an attack.
Yeah. They say in the East that through the thumb flows the bodhicitta power.
Bodhicitta?
Bodhicitta, yes, which is the power of the bodhisattvas and the fires. That's why we very often connect the thumb and the other fingers together, because that brings the power of the soul, of the spirit.
Okay. Men are as yet too impure and too selfish to be trusted with this knowledge. The thought forms would be constructed in order to be sent on selfish missions and for destructive ends. And until they are more spiritual and have gained control over their lower nature, the magical words which galvanize into separated activity the form in mental substance will not be available for their use. But
I have an image of that. I don't know if you want to go to
is it in the what I have to do? I don't think I have it up. No, it's not a problem. We can find it somehow. We'll find it. Okay, and take modify. And okay, and okay, 1, 2.
There.
This is pointing the way. And here, this is interesting because this one shows the released first finger. It's sort of the Upana mudra.
Yeah.
And this is much different. This is pointing the way. And this is, of course, support. And who's behind the magician?
It's like a soul.
Shadow and wiser entity.
Showing the way, and the magician is releasing the thoughtforms.
Boy, those are big gods. And here is the globe within the horns of Taurus. It has a very strong. Yeah. I guess he was there. He seems to carry the ancient wisdom with him.
Try the next one. I don't remember if it's related or not.
Wearing this
This talks about without the ego's impression or direct alignment, the words are lost in the sound and not remembered by the brain.
Exactly. And we're going to, good point. Okay. One version of the third eye. Interesting. Lots of eyes going on here. Interesting. Okay. Nice pictures. Are those two people particularly that Gilbert?
The one on the right is Bruce Harmon again, the one that had the 3 bodies with the Pleiades behind it.
Okay.
And on the left is Gilbert Williams.
Okay. All right. It might be asked, and this is germane to his point, how it is that men do achieve their ends through concentration and visualization, and do manage to send forth thought forms which can reach their objective. In 2 ways this can be brought about. First, by an unconscious recollection of methods and formulas known and used in Atlantean days when the magical formulas were public property, and men produced results through the pronouncement of certain sounds. But I wonder what he means by an unconscious recollection. It's almost as if they are brought forward, but the man doesn't know they're being brought forward. They're being summoned to the surface.
Intentionally seeking to do this.
Yes, but is he even registering them? Or are they unconsciously invoked and kind of working in the aura without him pronouncing them? Does he...
feeling.
Yeah, right. Or does he actually recognize what recognition, VCZ, what is coming up out of the past? Or is it effective? Just in the same way that the soul contains these downflowing words, but you do not remember them if the soul is not involved with you.
So this kind of suggests that thought forms might be carried forward from incarnation to incarnation.
They're all stored in the...
because you don't remember having thoughts, not because you don't remember that life, that doesn't mean they're not active in you.
It could be active. Could be active without being registered. Why does he use the word unconscious? Why doesn't he just say recollection of the ancient Atlantean things, or the unconscious gathering of them together, and you might not register them? So that's interesting. Well, anyway, this is what he says. Whether or not we know consciously what we're doing is another matter, but they are old, from times when these were public property. They did not achieve their ends through mental ability, but principally through a parrot-like capacity to repeat mantras. Okay. These are at times hidden in the subconscious nature and are used unwittingly by the man who is feeling strongly enough. And, does he know that he's using them? Are they working in his mind, or is he mumbling them and saying them? I mean, is it actually a memory that is evoked, or are they just brought up into an effective area and somehow being repeated in a way?
Or maybe he's repeating them like in his dreams, or in some part of his unconscious life, but not in his consciousness.
His nature repeating. Well, anyway, we know that we once knew these things. So in a way, it is really a reclamation of the past, isn't it? Amazing. And we look at it as some future amazing possibility, but these were public property.
It's a habit.
Yeah.
And when you're driving, you don't have to think about what you're doing while you're driving. You have to stop still. So you might never know that you've had them.
Know that we have them, have used them, or that they are rendered effective through strong feeling. Okay, let's see. Right, okay, unconscious recollection, that's the way, okay? One way in which a man can be effective. A second, through the thoughts and ideas of the man fitting in with the plans and purposes of those who do know how to use the form and do know the form, either on the path of white or black magic. Then they utilize the form with its inherent force and galvanize it into activity and a temporary separate identity, i.e., because they can free the prisoners of the planet, and force them to cohere, thus sending it forth to accomplish its purpose. This accounts for many of the apparently phenomenal results achieved by selfish or by incompetent or good thinkers, meaning the higher the other beings use their thoughts. So we can say beings who know use these thoughts. So keep on thinking good thoughts, because they can be used by those who can direct them and know.
Okay, so the Dark Lodgers at Goldman Sachs. Now, obviously they're adept at something. I don't think they chant.
Okay, no, probably.
How are they achieving these tremendous rip-offs and smokescreens? How are they doing this? Just like mentally thinking it, creating thought forms. They don't actually need to chant them. They just need to force their cohorts to do them.
Yeah, well, they're smart and we're gullible, and we worship the mind, and we think they're smarter than they know. We're always looking for the guru. Yes.
I got a partial thought about this. That it become even more simple and worse than this. They have been. They've helped design the rules by which, in this case, money can be made. And they know those rules better than most of us do, and they have the power to exercise those rules. So what are the rules these days? I mean, the rules have been reduced to mathematical kind of formulas. And so what they do, these are well-meaning people, by the way, and they know how to exercise those things, and it's relatively simple.
And I would say, they have a better connection to those who are behind them than we do to the solar angel.
They're quite susceptible.
Yeah, and they're just following the formula.
Right.
And the formula isn't that hard to break up, I don't think.
And the formula is not a humanitarian formula, it's just a formula based on numbers, bottom line.
Now their souls, and we're trying to attempt to get there last night in the car going back to their souls. Not that I want to talk about this now, but in this context, their souls are in fact on the left-hand half. Their solar angels are being called, and their solar angels are obviously executing some of this or not. I mean,
well, the solar angel doesn't do that, and let's just say their personalities are in danger of veering onto the left-hand path, and some of them probably are already there, which is the path of pure materialism, and it's fairly heartless. And this is one of the things we noticed in last night's movie was the heart was not a big issue in these foreclosures. So, as a matter of fact, I think, as you said, Lynn, from the NS teaching, there's some Mahachohan-like character who is very closely in charge of all these manipulations, and to whom they respond. And they just think that's the law. People who believe in social Darwinism, the survival of the fittest, the survival of the smartest, will do anything because that's how it is. And you're not even favoring what nature intends if you're kind, according to them.
Yeah.
And these are some of the corrupted stories that are being told that have to be undone, and these stories have to be retold. This is what the Court says. We are going to bring into the future through our words by shaping the new stories and bringing them into collective humanity.
New mythology. We're even told that for the New World religion. A new story has to be told for the New World religion. A new mythology has to be evolved for the New World religion. A new Christ myth, a new myth. Not the old story, just of the crucifixion, but a new story of the Christ. Yes. Yeah, good idea, right?
This is the human race. Yeah, it's a new story.
And part of that story has to have the second aspect within the third aspect. The second aspect of humanity that is missing.
Yes. Christ in the stock exchange. This would be very interesting. Wouldn't it be interesting if there was this ethical, compassionate investment that some have attempted?
Well, think what happened. Goldman Sachs has all this money for these bonuses, as you read about. They have set aside, there's a $220 million, which isn't that much in their scheme of things, for a whole lot of humanitarian purposes. Now, it's looked at as basically being the flex,
Sure.
But if you meet some of these people, they have those humanitarian instincts. The issue is for them at the very top, it's a game. They know how to play the game very well. It's game theory. It's game theory. You exercise the laws of the game, and you're big, you win. And if you don't, somebody else is going to win. So why not then win? It's like, why should they win?
Exactly. You might as well be out of the business. Why shouldn't it be us?
What's that?
They made up the rules.
Well, they did, but if they don't play the game well, somebody else will win the game. Right. Why does anybody have to win, somebody have to lose? It becomes the real issue. They have to design a different game. A human game. The real game.
You win a game by accumulating more than whether it's points or money.
In this case,
accumulation.
Yeah, the biggest wins.
Teach them the game of merit.
No. The game of merit. I'm remembering what Jacob Marley said to Scrooge when he dragged his chains up the stairs.
Yes.
He said, business, humanity was my business. Only I didn't know it.
Exactly.
So I wonder when that kind of attitude of being one's brother's keeper, I know they call it socialism, but when that will be more pervading the consciousness.
It's a game of sacrifice.
As long as we call it a game, we can change the rules, right? Well, Master Moria says there will come a time when men all over the world will vie with each other, compete with each other to see who can do more good. So just imagine what that will be like.
That's really described.
Maybe the transcendent.
Maybe it's a transition point.
Well, that's interesting because Richard Garrett, who developed the values surveys, and he's now gone towards measuring values of nations. And he said that's exactly what he wants to do, is create a positive competition between nations to say who can get the best values going.
Yeah. I think it's very, it preserves the old competitive instinct. It's a nice transition.
We did something on that order.
What's that?
We did something on that order. She had several young people competing to win a prize, and at the same, what they were working on was how to create the best outcome for family.
Exactly.
And
it could be redirected. It could be, and there's enough to it. Who here had something to say?
You raised your hand.
Well, now
long time ago.
But I was going back to this.
To the text? Really? How stodgy.
It seems as though we're we're trying to inquire how is it that these people have unexpected success or abnormally successful, rather than how it is that disciples somehow accomplish anything. Because we do, there's a process, basically energy follows thought, and we know that if we're able to maintain mental focus and we follow certain steps, we do get results without knowing secret formulas or all of that. So it seems here that we're looking at these apparently phenomenal results achieved in a way that would seem somehow to go beyond what we normally would expect.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a difference between maybe thinking a good thought, being motivated by it, starting to carry it out, spreading it among other people, and actually magically sending a thought form forth which works by itself. So I think that when we have a good thought and we set things in motion, things happen. But there's such a thing as us not having to do something and actually sending the thought form forth and it acting on its own.
That's quite common. It happens all the time. We have this saying, it has a life of its own.
Yeah.
Things take on this.
It's communicated to others, but what about if you just send it out into the ethers by itself without communicating it especially? Then will it have a magical effect?
It depends on, I think, its purpose, what's behind it, the motivating purpose, because it says here that if that happens and a person doesn't know the formulas, and it's not through the first method we just read about, then like that picture that you had him bring up a moment ago, that solar angel or whatever is behind it, it uses the formulas.
Well,
is known, and then the brain doesn't remember. And I think that's how a lot of that happens.
Okay. Well, there's two things we're looking at. We're looking at the disciplic accomplishment of a well-motivated person who acts on good thoughts and communicates his thoughts to others, and they get going. And then we're looking at the strictly magical creation of a thought form sent forth that does its particular work as an independent, separated entity that has been empowered, an empowered agent. So, maybe there's not so much difference between them, but one of them is maybe more the way the hierarchy works. They are building important thought forms that are doing their work.
I just feel like we're all so influenced in many ways to this level of creative thinking that we must be getting help in terms of getting these things manifest.
I think if we think the best thoughts we can, many of these things are gathered into thought streams, and those streams can be directed by those who know a lot more than we know.
I'm going to think another way of seeing it is that, the hierarchy are producing those thoughts, and and they're sending them because they know the formulas, they know how to do it, and we're kind of executing them, or we're kind of catching them because they are out there, and we're kind of part of the other part of the implementation. But the origin is coming from them.
Could be also, and then our thoughts are being created under that impress, and then join the stream. Our thoughts gravitate.
That's why maybe they are much more powerful than our own capacity to propel them out.
Okay, yes.
We were working on that theme that the work of the disciples in the world has this influence on the hierarchy.
Yes.
So how does that fit in with this thought forms flowing from the hierarchy if we are influencing them?
Well, we are to an extent, because they adapt according to the condition of humanity. So the work of the disciples of the world influences the hierarchy because they see what they have to create based upon what we have created. They are always observant. They are always experimenting.
Status.
So it's not like we're making them do anything. It's just they respond willingly to our condition, as read by our particular thought forms and efforts and so forth. So we have to act as if what we do is actually important, because it will condition their response. We were always told about them looking for the results of the experiments which have not been up to this day too encouraging, they tend to say. At least in the formation of ashramic subgroups and so forth. These group experiments have not been too encouraging. But then that was a number of years ago, and maybe there are more such at this time, with all of these selfless groups springing up. Maybe they are encouraging. Okay. Let's go a little more. The magical words are only communicated under the seal of secrecy to men working under the Brotherhood of Light, to initiates, and to pledged chelas, owing to the great danger involved. So this is direct communication of the words, right? Yes. Well, if you think about it, what goes on in the initiation ceremony? Certain words of power, giving power over various subplanes, are communicated. Well, you may not remember them, but something in you does remember them, and the higher you go, the more you remember them. And that is definitely under the pledge of secrecy. So the occult retention of speech is important, but he explains that too. It doesn't mean not talking. He jokes again that so many people think that if they have to take initiation, they must not talk. Which is obvious, is a distortion, but I sometimes think the arcane school bought that, somehow. Having worked there. It was sometimes a very silent place. But
did you say we should, in fact,
speak more to the right people and on appropriate subjects? Right. And Master Moria very strongly endorses spiritual conversation. Right. Okay. Occasionally, too, they are ascertained by men and women who have brought about a condition of alignment with the ego and are therefore in touch with the inner center of all knowledge. That's a big statement. Inner center of all knowledge. That's what he calls the ego. At least it has access within themselves. When this is so, the knowledge is safe. For the ego ever works on the side of law and righteousness. See, and that's an answer to your question, Mar. The ego ever works on the side of law and righteousness, and if these selfish personalities persist in their deviation onto the left-hand path, the ego snaps the thread, and they are left as one type of lost soul. Okay. They cannot reincarnate anymore, and they're left on the astral and mental plane until they disintegrate.
Cheating is on the astral plane?
I think that a number of experiences will be.
You think he's been cut up? Or Joe Stahl.
Joe. I think I want to reserve judgment for obvious reasons. Okay.
Well, apparently that's the purpose of the astral hell is sort of a purgatory to burn that out.
I'm sorry, didn't the Vatican say there is no purgatory now? I'm sorry.
Did we lose purgatory?
Yes, I think the Vatican has canceled it.
Yeah, no more funds.
Oh, really?
Really?
I said no more funding.
It's like a
Purgatory,
place to purge of those evil ways and intentions.
I think we're in purgatory right now. And also he tells us hell. He says this is hell. Yeah. But there actually is some sort of Norwegian word that's hellid, and it's a frozen state. Yeah. There's also a town in Norway called Hell, and there's a lot of postcards from Hell for other people, various people.
We have Helsinki, Helsingborg, Helsingør.
But on the other word, in German, Helle means clear, so it's not a bad word. Not a bad word.
And Helsingør.
Helio, sunlight,
Helio means ice, and so the other Helio.
Right.
Okay.
And for us, Helle is beautiful warm weather.
Well, there you go. Etymology. All right, let's go on a little more. When this is so, then the knowledge is safe, and the words being emanated by the ego are lost in his sound, as it is culturally termed, and will not be remembered by the physical brain when not under the influence of the solar angel. So if we want to do the magic, the solar angel has these words. So I guess the very first thing is soul contact, soul infusion, right motivation. I think what DK is telling us, we can be effective even though the formulas have not yet been communicated. And I think that's the right attitude to have. I don't think we should ever lapse into the idea we don't know the formulas, therefore we cannot be constructive.
Right. We know that we're co-creators.
We are co-creators. And methods of using us are, we're told that the thoughts we have generated can be taken by those who know and used properly, just like Master Moria says in a first-rate manner that when you're in a battle, the commander, inner commander, can grab off areas of your aura and hurl them at the enemy. It's a bit of a first-rate approach, but they can use you because they have stronger arms. They know how to do that.
They grab what?
They grab aspects of your aura, your energy, and they throw it at the enemy. See, they can do what you can't do. I was struck by that.
Although you
Were they?
Whoa!
You were struck by one?
This is Master Moria explaining how the soldiers can be used in the fight. It's not exactly the third-rate method. Okay. The 6 rules for the mental plane are necessarily brief, owing to the fact that the plane of mind is as yet unknown land to the majority. Unknown insofar as conscious control is concerned. And probably we can number ourselves among them. These 2 remaining rules concern in the first case the brother engaged in white magic, and in the second the thought form he is constructing. So that's rule number, actually we went through rule number 4 relatively fast. I'm not going, but there is remaining what he says in Treatise on White Magic, and I don't think that we can get into that right. I think we will complete our 7 rules, more or less. If not, we'll just stop on the mental plane and have to leave the astral plane for the next time. But I think we will manage this. But what he says in the Treatise on White Magic about this rule also goes back to the previous rule and is very, very interesting, I think. It's rule number 4. Let's see if I can quickly find that. Okay. Yes, rule number 4. Let's see if there's anything here. The creative work of sound. Whoa. There's a lot here. Does it not start until later in the... Somewhere I'll look this over tonight, and I'll see what it is possible to bring through that will not take up all our time, because we have other things to do. So let's just for fun repeat the rules we have worked with so far. Let's just repeat them so that we can, because it always serves to repeat and repeat until something makes an impression on you and becomes totally a part of your thought process. Okay, so rule 1 then, the solar angel collects himself, scatters not his force, but in meditation he communicates with his reflection. When the shadow hath responded, in meditation deep the work proceedeth, the lower light is thrown upward, the greater light illuminates the 3, and the work of the 4 proceedeth. And by the way, that work of the 4 is going to be to create the point of light. Okay? The energy circulates. The point of light, the product of the labors of the 4, waxeth and groweth. The myriads gather round its glowing warmth until its light recedes, its fire grows dim, then shall the second sound go forth. Okay, and sound, light, vibration, and the form blend and merge, and thus the work is one. It proceedeth under the law, and naught can hinder now the work from going forward. The man breathes deeply, he concentrates his forces, and drives the thought form from him. That's good. Actually, the group pronunciation of these is good. I mean, we're going to have to learn rhythm and mantram and united group pronunciation, or declamation, or what do you call it? Intonation, and that will carry power to make these rules group effectively, effective in the group. And when we are using the group to do this, obviously the rhythm is very important. We don't know the original rhythms or any of that, but if we hang together in our intonation of these things, it's much more powerful than if everybody is off on their own thing, breaking up. So to do that, you really have to kind of listen to each other. It's a lot like the choir singing. Everybody's got to listen to everybody else when you sing, otherwise it just can't be done. So that was good. There's certain power in that, and it just happens spontaneously. This is also good. So I'll find this tomorrow. As I recall, we read this in Escondido, and there were certain sections here that were very good and explained what we were doing. He also asks us some questions, and I studied the Om, the study of the light, the study of vibration, and the form. Okay. And then we'll get into the other one, where three things engage the solar angel before the passing downward of the form, and so forth. We're getting ready to move now towards the astral plane. So just very briefly, what stood out for you today?
The disciple has to initiate by throwing up the lights.
Okay, let me just, I'm sorry, I just have to, just very quickly, I'm sorry, I have to find the place to, okay, day 3, and hi. So you say the disciple has to initiate
by throwing up the three.
The lower light is thrown upward.
By the soul.
Okay,
that's
so
important.
Disciple must initiate the throwing upward of the triple light. Okay. Upward, ARD.
That those three lights are the light of the soul, the light of the etheric body, and the dark light of substance.
Yes, a light of the soul, exactly. Soul light, spirit light, and dark light of matter. All three producing together the various aspects of the light in the head. Okay, and the light in the head causing vibration in the chakras and their alignment and the consummation of energy. Okay.
The usefulness of the Om, you mentioned it carries the high geometry structure. How that is interesting thought.
Yeah, excuse me. You carry the right geometry, which is right relationship of all constituents. So, I suppose a lot of use of the Om, I imagine, if more people who are having trouble at home would Om together, well, I really think it could restore right relations. I think when things are getting acrimonious in a group or whatever, we could use that. Use that Om, Om. Oh, yeah. Harmlessness. Remember we did that before lunch, a long time ago.
To differentiate the various eyes, Shiva, eye of the soul.
Yeah, that's really important. The various eyes and their differentiation. Yeah, and there's still some ambiguity, but there are those, the eye of the soul and the eye of Shiva in a few significant tabulations are not the same. The eye of Shiva, not the same. And different locations for the same kind of eye, apparently, like the eye of the soul. You know, sometimes it seems like it's within the egoic lotus itself, and sometimes we're told definitely it's part of the higher head center.
If we settle for the point of light in the room 3 being the point of light being the thought form that is being created.
Well, there is a point of light which is the thought form, yes. But the second sound is still up in the air.
It is the Om or it is...
Yeah, exactly. Is the second sound, the Om, which the magician on the physical plane intones, or is it the sound of the thought form being created? Well, there is definitely a sound on the physical plane, and we are told that you are visualizing the thought form while you're oming. So obviously, that Om is having a big effect on the note of the thought form itself.
It sounds more and more to me that the point of light is the thought form, and then the second sound is the Om that is propelling.
I tend to think that is how it is. Yeah. At first, when I was reading through it, I got a little confused, but then it seemed later that the second sound and the thought form is the point. But the point will have its sound, which should be in harmony with the note of the ego, reinforced by the magician on the physical plane with his Om. And we tried, we experimented, which was good.
Access and the lack thereof to the magical formulas.
And please say that again. Please.
Access and lack thereof.
Access.
To the magical formulas.
Exactly. And the work and the lack thereof to the magical formulas.
But even though we don't have access to the magical formulas, we can have recommendation, soul contact, and soul infusion.
Okay. Effective. So we have right motivation, soul contact, and soul infusion, and the soul carries the formula.